Applying straight, undiluted castor oil to dry hair will actually make it more dehydrated. It triggers a cycle of chronic breakage and can even accelerate hair loss if you wear it on your scalp the wrong way. If you've done 5 minutes of research on natural hair restoration, you've probably heard that castor oil is the holy grail. You've seen the before and after videos, the glowing testimonials, the claims that this one thick oil can solve anything from a receding hairline to split ends. But as a clinician following patients' outcomes, I see a different reality walk into my practice every single week. I get a lot of patients coming to me with a bottle of pure, organic castor oil in their hands, frustrated, with the same question: why is my hair getting rougher and more brittle and breaking off more than before I started this routine? You're not using a bad product, you're just fighting the natural laws of lipid biochemistry and human trichology, which is the specialized science of hair and scalp health. Today we're going to take a look under the microscope and see exactly why pure castor oil acts the way it does, break down the exact mechanics of hair hydration, and understand how you can fix your routine using a simple clinical formulation that I call the 1-to-3 rule. By the time you finish listening to this breakdown, you will know exactly how to turn this heavy oil into a powerful asset for your hair thickness instead of a destructive habit that ruins your hair texture. To understand why pure castor oil dries your hair out, we need to understand what hair is really and what makes castor oil so unique in the extreme compared to any other oil found in nature. Your hair shaft is not a living tissue, and it cannot metabolize nutrients topically. When it leaves the scalp, it is a specialized structure of hardened keratin proteins arranged in 3 distinct concentric layers. The innermost layer is the medulla and is a soft core column that is often absent in fine hair types. The cortex surrounds the medulla and makes up the bulk of your hair fiber. The cortex contains the melanin pigments that give your hair its color and complex chains of macrofibrils and microfibrils made of alpha helix keratin proteins. These protein chains are connected to each other by several chemical bonds, including disulfide bonds, salt linkages, and hydrogen bonds. The integrity of these bonds, especially the hydrogen bonds, is highly dependent on the presence of water molecules to maintain internal elasticity and flexibility. When your cortex has just the right amount of water, your hair can stretch, bend, and withstand mechanical stress without snapping. The cuticle is the outer layer that protects this vulnerable cortical core. The cuticle is the physical armor of your hair, consisting of 6 to 10 layers of overlapping, dead flattened cells that look like shingles on a roof or scales on a fish. In a healthy condition, these shingles of cuticle lie perfectly flat, smooth, and close together. This tight, uniform alignment fulfills 2 crucial cosmetic purposes. Firstly, it yields a perfectly reflective surface off which light can bounce, giving your hair a vibrant, natural shine. And secondly, it establishes a highly controlled barrier that limits the loss of water from the internal cortex. Between these cuticle shingles is a specialized lipid layer called the cell membrane complex, which acts as a natural mortar that holds the shingles together and makes it difficult for external elements to easily disrupt the inner hair fibers. Now we'll look at the oil itself, the exact chemical. Castor oil is obtained by compression from the seeds of the Ricinus communis plant. Its unique molecular profile when used improperly on human hair is a massive clinical challenge. Looking at most of the common cosmetic lipids such as coconut oil, argan oil, or olive oil, you have a balanced blend of oleic, linoleic, and palmitic fatty acids. But about 90% of the entire fatty acid content of castor oil is made up of a very rare long-chain fatty acid called ricinoleic acid, chemically known as 12-hydroxy-9-octadexanoic acid. Ricinoleic acid has a unique molecular structure with a particular polar hydroxyl group on the 12th carbon atom. Without turning this into a confusing university chemistry lecture, this unique hydroxyl group changes the way the oil behaves completely on a physical level. It makes the individual molecules of the oil bond strongly to each other through hydrogen bonds. These strong internal intermolecular attractions give castor oil an extremely high viscosity, or internal resistance to flow. It is literally dozens of times thicker, stickier, and heavier than normal cosmetic oils. Pour pure castor oil right from the bottle and you have something more like warm liquid honey than a smooth lubricating cosmetic oil. Due to its high molecular weight and incredible viscous structure, it cannot on its own get past those tightly packed, overlapping shingles of the hair cuticle. It can't squeeze into the cell membrane complex or to the inner cortex where your hair actually needs structural support. Instead, it sits right on top of the outer hair shaft, coating it in an immovable, heavy, completely sticky layer of dense lipids. And this physical reality leads us right into the core mechanical failure of this popular trend, which is the massive biological difference between feeding your hair fat and feeding your hair water. There is a fundamental and widespread misunderstanding in the modern wellness community about what constitutes hair moisture. A lot of people think that since an oil feels thick, greasy, and heavy, it must be highly hydrating to dry tissue. But strictly from a dermatological and biological point of view, moisture is a measure of water content only, and oil is a lipid or a fat. There's a very fine balance of both that your hair needs in order to maintain its natural elasticity and structural strength, but the water has to come first, for sure. In clinical trichology, topical hair products are classified into specific functional groups based on their interaction with water. Oils and fats are generally what is known as occlusives. An occlusive agent does not hydrate a cell, a skin layer, or a hair fiber. There is no water molecule in it to give to the tissue. Rather, an occlusive is a physical plastic wrap or hydrophobic, water-repelling wall that prevents moisture from moving. Its main medical purpose is to sit on a surface and prevent existing water from evaporating out into the atmosphere, a process known as transepidermal water loss when it happens on human skin, and transcuticular water loss when it occurs on the hair shaft. So let's look at the exact mechanical failure that happens when you put pure, heavy castor oil on bone-dry hair strands. When your hair is dry, the cortical fibers inside the shaft are already suffering from a low concentration of water molecules, causing the cuticle shingles to lift, roughen, and lose their flexibility. You put thick, undiluted castor oil right over those dry, lifted cuticle shingles, and you have an instant, completely airtight, hydrophobic seal right over that dry state. You are not locking moisture in because there was no moisture there in the hair to begin with. Instead, you're sealing the dryness within the hair shaft. Castor oil is extremely sticky and dense and creates such a ridiculously heavy and non-permeable barrier that it completely stops any ambient moisture or humidity from the surrounding air getting into the hair shaft. Your hair is totally cut off from any external environmental hydration. As that heavy oil sits unwashed on the hair shaft for several days, the inner cortex continues to dry out completely, making the hair fibers increasingly stiff, rigid, and completely brittle. When you eventually try to style, brush, or manipulate your hair in this condition, the lack of internal water elasticity means the keratin chains cannot bend. Instead of flexing, they snap, resulting in a huge increase in mid-shaft hair breakage and split ends. Also, the physical act of trying to distribute pure castor oil through dry, fragile hair strands creates massive surface friction as pure castor oil is highly viscid. As you work that thick, sticky oil down your hair, you are physically tugging against the delicate cuticle shingles. This mechanical pulling can result in the shingles cracking, lifting off altogether, or ripping away from the cell membrane complex, destroying the hair's natural protective layer altogether, and leaving the hair looking even rougher and more porous once the oil is eventually rinsed away. In serious cases, the friction of attempting to spread pure castor oil can pull delicate hairs right out of their roots, creating entirely needless hair loss. Drying out the hair shaft is a significant cosmetic problem, but what you are doing to your delicate scalp microbiome by applying pure castor oil is a much more serious clinical concern. A lot of popular tutorials tell creators and consumers to drench their scalp with pure castor oil and leave it on overnight, sometimes covered with a plastic cap, thinking it will stimulate the hair matrix cells to grow hair faster and thicker. Let's examine the anatomy and ecology of the human scalp to understand why this practice is so counterproductive. Your scalp is not a dead piece of skin, it's a very active living ecosystem. Each and every hair follicle is deeply embedded in the dermis and is intimately connected to a sebaceous gland. These glands of the skin are always secreting the natural oil of the body, which is called sebum, a very complicated mixture of triglycerides, free fatty acids, wax esters, and squalene for lubricating the skin and preserving the acid mantle. Your scalp is also home to a natural microflora, including a prominent microscopic yeast-like fungus called Melassacea. In a healthy individual with a balanced scalp microbiome, this fungus lives in harmony with your skin cells, munching away on a minuscule percentage of your natural sebum and metabolizing triglycerides into specific fatty acids. But if you soak your scalp with pure, heavy, highly concentrated castor oil and leave it there for hours on end, you are radically disturbing this delicate ecological balance. Ricinoleic acid, being thick, physically blocks the hair follicle openings, which are clinically called the follicular ostia, This creates an immediate anaerobic environment, which is a space completely free of oxygen. This warm, oxygen-free trapped environment is the absolute perfect breeding ground for harmful anaerobic bacteria and causes the natural Malassezia fungus to overproliferate at an alarming rate. The lipids are metabolized by the exploding population of Malassezia, and as a byproduct, it produces large amounts of irritating oleic acid. This excess oleic acid penetrates the skin barrier, causing an immediate inflammatory response from your immune system. This results in an inflammatory skin disease called seborrheic dermatitis, which causes intense itching, redness, burning, and thick yellow scales. In more serious cases, it will cause a condition known as folliculitis, which is a deep bacterial or fungal infection and inflammation of the hair follicles themselves, appearing as painful, red pustules around the hair shafts. When a hair follicle becomes chronically inflamed and congested, the cells of the hair matrix are put into a state of extreme cellular stress. Chronic local scalp inflammation causes the human body to cut off the hair's growth cycle. The follicle is forced to exit its active growth phase, the anagen phase, prematurely, and to quickly move through the transition catagen phase into its resting and shedding phase, the telogen phase. This leads to a clinical condition called telogen effluvium, which means you are physically accelerating hair shedding and causing diffuse hair thinning across your entire scalp by trying to force it to grow with a suffocating routine. Secondly, pure castor oil has an incredibly high density that acts like a powerful magnet for dead skin cells, shed keratinocytes, environmental pollution, dust, and dried sweat against the scalp tissue. Castor oil isn't water soluble, so if you're not completely stripping this heavy oil away with an aggressive clarifying surfactant shampoo, that sticky buildup hardens over time into a thick, waxy crust on your scalp. This crust asphyxiates the base of the hair roots, hinders the natural flow of sebum, and can cause a localized hyperkeratosis that compromises the overall quality of the new hair fibers that emerge from the scalp, making them weaker and thinner from the very beginning. Now that we know the precise science of why pure castor oil doesn't work, let's talk about the clinical solution. You don't have to toss your bottle of castor oil in the trash. Ricinoleic acid does have real scientifically proven benefits for hair and scalp health when used properly. It is a potent natural anti-inflammatory, has antimicrobial properties, and when properly massaged into the scalp, can stimulate local microcirculation to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the active hair root matrix. In addition, its high tensile strength creates an outstanding protective coating that prevents weathering of the hair fiber structure. But to realize these wonderful medical benefits without the damaging side effects, we must purposely change the physical properties of the lipid. We need to significantly reduce the viscosity, decrease the internal friction, and increase the spreadability so it can coat the hair cuticle evenly without forming a suffocating, drying, impermeable barrier. This is where the 1 to 3 rule becomes absolutely critical to your hair care formula. The 1 to 3 rule. Never, ever, ever put pure castor oil directly on your hair or skin. Instead, always mix 1 part of pure castor oil with 3 parts of a lightweight, low viscosity, highly mobile carrier oil. This gives a balanced lipid solution in which ricinoleic acid is reduced to about 25%. This is the clinical sweet spot where you get all the therapeutic benefits of the acid, but you lose entirely the sticky, occlusive, high friction properties that ruin hair texture. What is an ideal carrier oil for this formulation? We would like to choose a plant-derived lipid that has a low molecular weight, high fluidity, and excellent spreadability, or an oil that is very similar to the natural composition of human sebum. Pure jojoba oil is my main clinical recommendation for the perfect carrier oil. Jojoba oil is not really an oil. It is a liquid wax ester consisting of long-chain linear esters. It is highly biocompatible because its chemical structure closely resembles the molecular composition of the sebum that is naturally produced by the sebaceous glands in your scalp. Mixing 1 part castor oil with 3 parts of jojoba oil, the fluid wax esters of the jojoba break apart the dense, sticky hydrogen bonds of the ricinoleic acid. This thins the castor oil to a perfect consistency, making it a highly mobile, free-flowing liquid that can glide easily over the hair cuticle and even penetrate the tiny microscopic spaces between the cuticle shingles to deliver nourishment without clogging the system. If you have a different hair porosity and texture, you can choose other very effective carrier oils, depending on your specific hair type, to meet the 3-part requirement of the rule. If your hair is highly porous, chemically treated, or severely heat damaged, argan oil is an excellent carrier. Argan oil contains a high amount of oleic and linoleic acids and high concentrations of antioxidant vitamin E, which helps to smooth down damaged cuticle scales. If you have very fine hair that weighs down easily, you can use sweet almond oil or grapeseed oil as your carrier. Both have an incredibly light texture and high mobility that will not allow the castor oil to leave a greasy residue on your hair fibers. Diluting the castor oil to a 25% concentration in a lighter, highly fluid lipid base gives you three distinct clinical advantages all at once. First, you allow the oil blend to slide over your delicate hair shafts with absolutely no surface friction at all, completely eliminating the risk of mechanical cuticle damage or traction hair loss when applying. Second, you change an impermeable plastic wrap barrier into a semi-permeable lipid shield. This modified shield also allows ambient moisture from the air to continuously flow through and hydrate the hair cortex, but still provides sufficient occlusion to keep your internal hydration from escaping. Third, you make the product incredibly easy to wash out during your regular shower routine, so you can get all the lipids off your scalp without needing harsh, drying sulfates that strip away your natural skin barrier, thus preventing follicle occlusion and chronic scalp inflammation. To apply the 1 to 3 rule successfully and safely, you have to follow a highly structured, step-by-step clinical application protocol. The absolute first step in this protocol is to establish the hydration foundation. Never apply your formulated oil blend to bone-dry hair. Before the oil touches a single strand, you need to either wash your hair well or spray a fine mist spray bottle evenly over your hair with clean water. Your hair should be soaked but not soaking. This step is a must as it ensures that there is a real physical layer of water molecules on the hair shaft and within the cuticle layers. Now, when you layer the oil blend over top of this damp foundation, the occlusive nature of the castor oil does its job as nature intended, locking those all-important water molecules right inside of the cortex and immediately increasing your hair's internal elasticity and softness. Next comes the mixing phase, which needs to be measured out to keep the right ratio. Don't just guess the amounts in the palm of your hand. Get a small, clean amber glass dropper bottle. Measure out exactly 1 tablespoon of pure castor oil and exactly 3 tablespoons of your choice of light carrier oil. Jojoba or argan oils are good options, using a tablespoon measuring spoon. Secure the dropper lid tightly and shake the bottle vigorously for at least 30 seconds. As these are natural lipids of varying densities, the mechanical shaking ensures that the molecules intermix thoroughly, reducing the total viscosity until the liquid flows as smoothly and easily as water in the bottle. Then there's the dosing phase. This is where moderation is absolutely key in order to prevent product buildup. This mix is so efficient that a little goes a very long way. Dispense 4 to 6 individual drops of blended oil into the palms of your hands. Rub your hands together quickly, heating the lipids with your body heat, which will reduce the surface tension even more. Press palms gently on the mid-lengths and ends of damp hair, sliding smoothly down in the direction of the cuticle shingles to seal them flat. Do not rub the hair hard between your palms. For the scalp, dispense a maximum of 2 to 3 drops directly onto clean fingertips. Part your hair and gently massage the oil into the skin with the soft pads of your fingers in slow circular motions. This massage is specific, stimulating the blood vessels in the area, and it encourages the flow of nutrients to the hair roots without putting tension or pulling on the delicate hair shafts. After the application comes the incubation phase. This is where there is a strict time frame. Let the oil mixture sit on your hair and scalp for at least 30 minutes so the active compounds can interact with the tissues, but limit application to a maximum of 45 minutes. Do not leave this mixture on your scalp overnight, and do not sleep with it in your hair. 45 minutes is plenty of time for the anti-inflammatory and protective properties of the ricinoleic acid to work. Rinse it off before the anaerobic environment can create an overpopulation of the Malassezia fungus or lead to follicular congestion. Lastly, the removal phase involves a proper surfactant cleanse to keep the scalp in top condition. Get in the shower and wash your hair thoroughly in warm water for a full minute to help loosen the lipid barrier. Use a gentle, pH-balanced, sulfate-free shampoo directly on your scalp tissue. Focus your finger movements on emulsifying the oils in your skin. And I like to let the shampoo suds softly run down the lengths of your hair rather than scrubbing the fragile ends. Rinse thoroughly with warm water. If your hair naturally produces a lot of sebum or feels slightly heavy still, apply a second small dose of shampoo to ensure removal is complete. After rinsing, your hair should feel completely clean, light, and soft, with no sticky or greasy residue at all. When you switch from raw, heavy, uncut castor oil to this clinically balanced 1 to 3 routine, you'll see an immediate radical difference in the structural texture and appearance of your hair. Your hair fibers will feel incredibly pliable, smooth, and truly hydrated from the inside out, instead of that stiff straw-like sticky texture that leads to chronic breakage. In 4 to 8 weeks of regular weekly use, this routine will dramatically reduce your daily hair breakage, maintain your hair density, and keep your ends thick and healthy. Keep in mind, you cannot feed the hair shaft vitamins topically to make it grow faster from the ends because the hair shaft is non-living tissue. Real hair growth happens only at the root level in the scalp. By following this scientific routine, you are safeguarding the structural survival of the hair you already have, preventing premature breakage, and optimizing the health of your scalp soil so that your hair seeds can grow completely unhindered by disease or inflammation. Before you dive into this routine, it's important to evaluate the quality of your raw materials because the purity of the oil directly impacts the health of your scalp. When shopping for castor oil, avoid the cheap generic bottles that you find lining the shelves of the industrial pharmacy aisles. These are often mass-produced using high-heat chemical extraction techniques that involve industrial solvents like hexane. Low-grade oil can leave behind hexane residue that causes severe chemical contact dermatitis, allergic reactions to the skin, and follicular toxicity. Check the label for words like 100% organic, cold-pressed, and completely hexane-free. Cold-pressed extraction means that the oil was extracted from the seed by only mechanical pressure, keeping the temperature down and keeping the structural integrity of the ricinoleic acid intact without creating any damaging chemical byproducts. You can substitute standard cold-pressed castor oil for high-quality Jamaican black castor oil successfully within the 1-to-3 rule if you have highly textured, coarse, curly, or low-porosity hair. Jamaican black castor oil is made from castor seeds that are roasted then pressed using a traditional method. Roasting results in an organic ash content that gets mixed into the oil, which gives it its characteristic dark color and distinctive smoky aroma. This ash content makes the oil a little alkaline from the trichological point of view. When applied to low porosity hair types, this mild alkalinity gently coaxes the tightly closed cuticle shingles to open just enough to allow the lightweight carrier oils to enter the cortex more effectively, providing deep structural protection that standard oils cannot achieve. But as it is alkaline, it is even more important to stick strictly to the 45-minute time limit and to dilute it well, so as not to alter permanently the natural acidic pH mantle of your scalp. Treat your scalp microbiome like you mean it, and the accidental lockout of the water your hair fibers need to survive, and do the 1-to-3 dilution rule for your next 4 hair wash cycles. Treat your scalp like a delicate garden that needs the right soil conditions, and your hair will reward you with incredible resilience and fullness. Thank you for reviewing this clinical masterclass. If you enjoyed this evidence-based health breakdown and found it helpful for your personal care journey, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update, and leave a detailed comment below sharing your history, questions, or personal results using castor oil routines. Until next time, keep your health at the forefront of your mind, informed by real science, and I will see you in our next clinical video breakdown.